My name is Michael. My parents ran a beloved sandwich shop that was adored by people of all ages. I love the sandwiches here. I end up buying them every time I'm in town for a business trip. Eating these sandwiches just feels comforting. The sandwiches my parents made had a unique taste that blended nostalgia with simplicity, and it brought smiles to all our customers' faces. Alright, that'll be $2.50. Working hard as usual, kiddo, good for you. After returning from school, I would stand in front of the store to help out, and I was just as beloved by our customers as the shop was. And I too loved the customers who adored my parents' sandwiches. Thanks to the many repeat customers, I still remember quite a few of them to this day. Customers who came from the next town over, those who came walking with canes, and those who cheerfully said, "These sandwiches are my reward for a hard day's work." I particularly remember a customer who told me, "It's a treat for me." She was a very beautiful person. She must have been on her way home from work. She would come by almost every evening and buy a sandwich. What's wrong? It's $2.50. I would sometimes get lost in the beauty of her smile, backlit by the setting sun, as I handed over the sandwich. I didn't help out at the shop during middle school because I was busy with club activities, but my classmates would often come by to buy sandwiches. "My mom's a huge fan of your sandwiches." "Is that so? Well, buy a lot then." My parents' sandwiches weren't just delicious. They connected me with many different people who came to buy them. So, when my sister, Sarah, was born during my second year of middle school, making me the eldest son, I was determined. "Dad, I'll take over the sandwich shop one day." "Really?" "Yeah, the shop is loved by everyone, but I probably love it the most." "Michael, you say such heartwarming things." Dad would ruffle my hair with his big hands. "Come on, I'm the big brother now, so if you're going to pat someone, it should be Sarah." I tried to escape from his hand, but seeing my dad smiling so happily made me feel a bit ticklish too. However, tragedy struck unexpectedly one day. It was when I was in my third year of high school and Sarah was 5 years old. "I'm hungry. Dad and Mom are taking quite a while to come back." That day, my parents had gone to the next town to buy ingredients for the sandwiches, but they hadn't returned even as the day turned to evening. Then, the phone rang. "Hello. This is the Brown residence, right? This is the police." "The police." I was informed that my parents had been in a car accident, and I quickly called a taxi, carrying Sarah with me to the hospital. But no way. What awaited us were my parents, who had already passed away. By the time we arrived at the hospital, it seemed there was nothing that could be done. "Michael, why won't Mommy and Daddy wake up?" "I don't know why, I just don't know." "Michael." The days that followed are still a blur to me. With the help of relatives who rushed over from afar, I managed to hold my parents' funeral and complete all the necessary procedures, but none of it felt real. It was all like a bad dream. It was all so sudden. However, I was forced to confront the reality that my parents were gone when an incident made me acutely aware of it. One day, when Sarah said she was hungry, I made her a sandwich. But after taking a bite, Sarah started to cry. "Your sandwich isn't tasty. It's different from Mom and Dad's." Hearing this, she began to shed tears. Sarah, still so young, didn't fully understand the death of our parents. But at that moment, I think she realized that Mom and Dad were no longer with us. "Mommy, Daddy." I hugged Sarah as she started to cry. And that's when I resolved to protect my 5-year-old sister, no matter what. I had a desire to take over the shop. But Dad had plans for me to go to college, so he probably thought that me taking over the shop was still a long way off. He hadn't taught me anything about running the business or how to make the sandwiches. In such a state, it wasn't realistic to manage the sandwich shop alone while raising 5-year-old Sarah. So, I decided to find a job right after high school. Now, everything depended on my earnings. So, I worked desperately. Being surrounded by college graduates, I felt the need to work 3 times as hard to earn their recognition. However, sorry, I need to leave early. Children often become ill. It wasn't just once or twice that I had to leave work early because the daycare called to say Sarah needed to be picked up. That's why I worked furiously, trying to make up for the inconvenience I caused at work. Then one day, "Michael, you look a bit pale, are you okay?" My boss, Karen, approached me with concern. Karen is a powerhouse career woman, whose work ethic rivals that of her male counterparts. Not only is she highly competent at her job, but she is also very beautiful, making her popular among colleagues, regardless of gender. However, I've never seen Karen smile. Honestly, I was slightly uncomfortable around her. Moreover, showing weakness to a superior, and potentially getting less work as a result, was the last thing I needed. So, I put on a brave face. "I'm fine, I'm in great shape." But Karen's concern was justified. In truth, I was only getting about 2 hours of sleep each night. The reason was my sister, Sarah. Sarah had become unstable and often cried after losing our parents. To avoid making her sad, I would go straight to daycare after work every day. I would spend all my time with Sarah until she went to sleep. And then, I had to catch up on all the housework after she had fallen asleep, which meant I went to bed late at night. It was only natural that such days would take their toll on my body. Michael. Ironically, right after I had acted tough, I collapsed, powerless. Of course, I tried to get up immediately, but my legs wouldn't support me. Instead, my vision began to darken. Karen's unusually panicked voice shouting, "Call an ambulance," was all I could hear. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. The cause of my collapse was overwork. It seemed I would need to be hospitalized for a while. The doctor even warned me, saying, "If you push yourself any harder, it could be fatal," leaving me with nothing to do but hold my head in my hands. The biggest problem was what to do about Sarah during my hospital stay. I had no relatives nearby to rely on, and the daycare couldn't keep her for 24 hours. As I worriedly watched Sarah, who was dozing off beside my bed, a visitor came. "Karen, I was shocked when you suddenly collapsed. You must have been pushing yourself too hard." Karen approached with the sound of her heels clicking. "I'm sorry for causing you trouble. Don't worry about work. We can manage without you for a while. Right now, you need to focus on recovering." Karen stopped mid-sentence. When she widened her eyes in surprise, I wondered what had caught her off guard. "I was so shocked to learn that you had a child," she said, looking at Sarah, which made me burst out laughing. "Sarah is my sister." "Your sister? Oh right, of course." Karen blushed slightly and coughed as if to cover it up. This was a side of her not often seen at the office. "But it's already evening. Will your parents be coming to pick up Sarah soon?" "Actually, I don't have parents anymore." "What?" I shared with Karen. "Our parents had died in a car accident. I'm currently taking care of Sarah by myself, but my hospitalization has left me struggling to find someone to care for her." Hearing this, Karen let out a sigh. I was taken aback. "I'm sorry, my family issues shouldn't be your concern, Karen." "That's not it." "What?" I sighed because I can't believe you kept such an important matter to yourself. If I had known about your situation, we could have made accommodations for you at work. "I'm sorry, I didn't want to show any weakness." "No, Michael, you don't have to apologize. It's probably your fault for creating an environment where you felt you couldn't share." Karen sighed again, but this time it seemed to be directed at herself. After a moment of thought, she looked up and said, "I've decided. I'll take care of Sarah while you're in the hospital." "That's too much. I can't ask you to go to such lengths." "There's no need to be polite. I have a much younger brother, so despite how it might seem, I'm quite used to handling children." Karen then gently stroked the still sleeping Sarah's hair. Her eyes softened, perhaps reminded of her own brother when he was young. Just then, Sarah woke up. "Who are you?" "Sorry, did I wake you?" "No, it's okay." Sarah clung tightly to Karen's arm. Despite usually being shy around strangers, Sarah seemed comfortable with Karen. Karen looked at me as if to say, "See. It seems she really is experienced with handling children." "All right, I know I should refuse, but..." "It's settled then. I'll take good care of Sarah, so you just focus on getting better." "Okay, oh, but there are some things you should know about Sarah." "Like what?" "She can sleep without clutching a towel blanket, and in the morning, she'll only eat toast with chocolate spread. Also, it's hard to get her to wash her hands with soap." As I frantically explained everything about Sarah, Karen's eyes widened in surprise. Then she laughed. "You really are a wonderful brother." Karen's smile was so beautiful that I was momentarily captivated, but I snapped back to reality when she called my name, "Michael." "It's nothing. Please take good care of Sarah, and if there's any trouble, feel free to contact me anytime." "All right, understood." Karen and I exchanged contact information. My hospital stay lasted 2 weeks, but Karen sent me photos of Sarah looking happy every day via texts, which greatly eased my mind. I truly couldn't thank Karen enough. I was wrong to have had a cold impression of her in the past. And on the day of my discharge, I bought a thank you gift and went to Karen's house to pick up Sarah. "Really, I can't thank you enough for everything. It seems like you were very kind to Sarah as well." "Haha, it's all good. I had a wonderful 2 weeks myself. Come on in, I was just making sandwiches for Sarah." "Sandwiches?" When I entered, Sarah was happily eating a sandwich at the table. "What's going on here?" After what happened with her mom and dad, Sarah used to hate even the sight of sandwiches. Karen's sandwiches are so delicious. They taste just like mom and dad's. "Really?" Surprised, Karen offered me a sandwich. "Would you like to try one, Michael?" "Yes, please." Karen's sandwich. When I took a bite, I was as shocked as if I had been struck by lightning. Of course, it was delicious, but this tastes just like my mom and dad's sandwiches. Just like Sarah said, Karen's sandwiches tasted remarkably like my parents'. It couldn't have been just a coincidence. My mom and dad spent years of trial and error perfecting that sandwich. Karen said to me, surprised, "Actually, I was a regular at your parents' sandwich shop." "What?" "As a reward for working hard, I almost went there every day." Karen laughed. Just then, the setting sun shone through the window behind her. "Ah!" I couldn't help but exclaim. The beautiful person who used to come by every evening after work to buy sandwiches. That beauty, smiling against the backdrop of the setting sun, was indeed Karen. I was truly saved by her parents' sandwiches. She began to share. Moving to the city for work from the countryside was tough, especially being looked down upon by male colleagues. Even when she proved them wrong with her results, she faced harassment for being a woman. And as she continued to strive, there came a point where she could no longer smile genuinely at work. It was hard feeling like I was losing myself, but eating that sandwich, with its nostalgic and simple taste, I could relax and just be me again. Karen squinted nostalgically and then looked down at her sandwich. "That's why I was really sad when that shop closed. My sandwich tastes like your parents because I tried so hard to recreate that taste myself." So that was it. I felt like I was going to cry. That my parents' sandwiches had saved Karen. And that Karen cherished my parents' sandwiches to such an extent. "Hey, Michael, why did you close the shop?" Karen's question made my heart ache. I couldn't replicate my parents' sandwich taste, and above all, it was impossible, managing the shop while taking care of Sarah and doing all the household chores alone. "I can teach you how to make the sandwiches." "What?" "I can help with taking care of Sarah and the household chores." "Karen, what are you saying?" "I want you, Michael, to revive the sandwich shop." Karen said this with a steady gaze. "But how can I possibly?" As I averted my eyes from Karen's gaze, "Will he be able to make Mom and Dad's sandwiches?" This time, Sarah looked up at me with hopeful eyes. "Sarah." Her gaze reminded me. I remembered declaring I would take over the sandwich shop with enthusiasm when I became the big brother after Sarah was born. How my dad happily tousled my hair. "Right, I really did want to take over my parents' shop. Are you really okay with this?" In response to my words, Karen smiled and nodded. From that day, Karen started living with us, helping out with household chores. I spent my spare time working on reviving the shop. I fixed up the shop, which had been unused for a while, and reached out to all the contacts my parents had relied on for their support. Of course, I didn't forget to learn how to make sandwiches from Karen. Sandwiches became a daily presence on our dining table, and Sarah was happy about it. Come to think of it, Sarah has been stable lately, without any crying. I truly can't thank Karen enough. And then, 3 months later, thanks to careful planning and Karen's support, I was able to reopen the sandwich shop. It wasn't just Karen, who had been eagerly awaiting the reopening. Many of the customers who used to come by also returned right away. I was honestly anxious. Neither I nor even Karen could perfectly replicate the taste of my parents' sandwiches. That's why, when the same customers came back the next day saying, "The sandwiches were delicious, the taste was so comforting," it brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you for reopening the shop, we'll keep coming back." I was so moved I almost cried. Afterwards, the shop thrived. Since the sandwich shop alone was enough to support us, I quit my job. Sarah settled down completely, and I could focus solely on the shop. Seeing this, Karen said, "Well, the shop is on track now, so it's time for me to leave," and decided to move out. Then, "Wait, Karen." Sarah pulled on Karen's clothes, stopping her. "Why are you leaving?" "Because my rule here is done." "That's right, Sarah. We can't depend on her forever." At my words, Sarah looked genuinely puzzled. "I know how Karen used to look at you at the slightest moment and smile at you, Michael, and I know you used to do the same to Karen." Sarah's words were spot on. I had come to be attracted to Karen as we lived together and shared so much time. "You two should get married." Motivated by Sarah's straightforward words, I found myself rushing to Karen, holding her hand as if to stop her from leaving. "Karen, I want you to stay here forever." Surprised by my words, which were akin to a proposal, Karen responded, "Yes, if you're okay with me." She smiled that beautiful smile I loved and nodded. The bond that my parents' sandwiches had forged. I'll cherish it forever. After that, Karen and I got married. Now, as a couple, we're running the thriving sandwich shop. Haha, welcome. Of course, with Sarah's help too.